All right, today's schedule release day. We've officially got the Jaguars' whole script for next season. So we got the whole sports team together. We're going to spend a little bit of time kind of trying to go through this thing week by week to see just what's in store for the Jaguars next year. One thing we know before we get into it, it is a tough schedule. I think by strength of schedule, at least on paper right now, I think they have the 8th toughest in the NFL. So not an easy road for a team that didn't finish in first place last year, so trying to get back to the playoffs. So they got their work cut out for them.
AFC South champs a year ago, and I think this schedule right now, on paper at least, plays out a little more difficult than last year's as a first-place schedule.
And technically, they don't have as strong of opponents from last year since they're playing like the second tier of teams, but still it's going to be really tough. So.
Somehow it still came out tougher. All right, let's start with week 1. So week 1 you get against the Miami Dolphins. That game September 8th, in-state rivalry, but they go on the road to Miami. I'm sure a lot of Jags fans are going to make the quick drive down to Miami. But that's tough because that Miami offense was explosive last year. That's going to be the first test for Ryan Nielsen's defense, and it's a tough test.
Yeah, you got Tyreek Hill. You got a Tua, you know a little bit about Tua. Haven't seen him at Bama, but again, a great offense right out of the gate. Ryan Nielsen, that rebuilt defense is going to get a tough look right out of the box, and then boom, boom, boom. You got 4 playoff teams, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Who's covering Tyreek Hill?
Who's covering Odell Beckham Jr.? Who's covering Jalen Waddle?
Those are questions we're going to be asking during training camp. Who's covering these guys? Well, they got Tyson Campbell coming back. He should be healthy. Darby's your other corner probably, unless Jarian Jones can win it. But how comfortable do you feel with Tyson Campbell one-on-one with Tyreek Hill in a man coverage defense after last season? So he's going to have his hands full week 1. But he's in a contract year, so if the guy's going to ball out, this is the year that he has to ball out. All right, week 2, get to relive the nightmares from last season. You go against the Cleveland Browns. That one's set for September 15th. If you want to think back, or maybe you blocked out last year.
No Joe Flacco. That's the positive.
That's true. They won't have Joe Flacco. They'll have Deshaun Watson. I don't know if that's better or worse at this point.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, Joe Flacco carved him up after being on a practice squad basically a week and a half before that, so did not bode too well. We'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson. But again, playoff team again.
Yeah, look, Watson was training. He spent some time training here in Jacksonville, so this is kind of like a comeback to Jax for Watson. So he is at least comfortable here, which is bad. But this one, it's a little different. So last year, the loss was ugly, but the loss, we are as close to any of those touchdowns as the Jaguars defender was. It wasn't like the Browns just beat them. They were just, the Jaguars just had no clue what was going on. So that's week 2. Not exactly, it was a playoff team though, not ideal, but a tough start to the year.
Oh, 100%. But I like week 3. We're going back to my home state, to New York. Monday Night Football too. Jaguars are back on Monday Night Primetime.
Yeah, that's big time. Boneans Buffalo. So the Jaguars and the Bills have a lot of history together, and that Buffalo game's going to be an interesting one. So first primetime game of the year for the Jaguars. It's on the road in Buffalo. Jaguars fans get rowdy, but Buffalo Bills fans jump through tables for fun.
They're crazy.
They're crazy.
Yeah, it is sure to be a wild time on Monday night for that. We'll be keeping an eye on that one because that's going to be a national game in September 23rd. Justin, I'm going to get you to step
Jags
forward a little
did beat
bit for me.
them at home last year, right?
Yeah.
Jags did beat them at home in London last year.
At home. At home in
Did
London.
beat them. The last 2 times they played, they beat them.
So then we get to week 4, your first AFC South game of the year. That one's on the road in Houston, September 29th. Now, you know that Texans game is going to be big. C.J. Stroud had their number last year as a rookie. Now he's going into year 2. They've added some pieces to that roster. First game against Stephon Diggs. It's going to tell us a lot. It's going to tell everybody a lot about where this Jaguars team is.
The Texans have owned that series, and I think you get a little renewed life if you're a Texans fan because what the infusion of talent they had last year and the success that CJ had against Jacksonville last year, you got to feel good if you're a Texans fan. Really quick into that rebuild, and you're really doing well. First really challenge in the AFC South, and you're going to see how they are. Where are they at in this AFC South race?
Right.
Yeah, if there's any matchup that I'm really looking forward for the Jaguars to play this season, it's going to be the Texans, just because of how many offseason acquisitions both teams have had. I think it's going to be really, really good games, and that's what I'm most excited to see.
The AFC South went from 0 to 100
so
really
quick.
fast. So it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a race to the finish for all these AFC South teams. Jaguars have another AFC South game to start the month of October, taking on the Indianapolis Colts. That one going to be it's going to be similar to the first go around against the Colts last year than it was maybe that second game. No more Gardner Minshew for Indy.
But
all Anthony Richardson.
Here's a hint: Colts don't win in Jacksonville.
So
Colts don't win in Jacksonville.
They don't. They haven't.
They have not historically
knock
done well.
Knock on wood somewhere. But hey, historically they haven't. So that is good news. Maybe they can start the month of October with a win. You know, October tends to tell you a lot of things about football season. It tells the tale for a lot of teams if they're going to make it to the postseason. So they need to have a good month. But right after that Colts game, they head across the pond for the first time. Road game against the Bears.
Yeah, back-to-back in London once again like last season. Two really easy teams, so they should come out victorious again. Hopefully. I mean, they're playing the Bears and the Patriots. Can't really get worse than that.
Again, knock on wood, really easy teams.
That's true. That's true.
You would think so. You Caleb Williams, Roman Dunze. That offense of Chicago is frightening on paper. We'll see how Jacksonville does, but I still think you got to be favored in that matchup. I mean, rookie going to London for the first time.
Back-to-back rookies.
I like the fact that Jacksonville gets two rookie quarterbacks back-to-back weeks in London.
I just want to remind you, we said the same thing about C.J. Stroud. we said the same thing about C.J. Stroud the first go-around. Oh, it's a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterback struggling again. Yeah, back-to-back rookie quarterback. I'm just saying, knock on wood. We'll see. But those do on paper look like a good trip to London, where that second game you hope that the Jaguars are accustomed, the Patriots aren't, and that helps them while they're there to pick up a couple of wins, because this first stretch of the season definitely is it's doing them no favors.
No, absolutely not. And I do think the Patriots haven't been overseas in a decade. The Jaguars know what it's like going back to back.
Yep.
I think with those two teams, not too familiar, it's definitely going to be probably jet lagged, I would say.
The Bills were complaining about it last year, so maybe it happens again. We'll see who learns from what the Jaguars did last year or what the Bills did wrong last year. Maybe some teams that adopt some of those things. I don't know. Hopefully they don't adopt it this week against the Jaguars. So let's go later in the month of October. Last game, back home in Jacksonville. So Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke and company do not like having the bye week after London. So they got their wish this year with a late bye week down in week 12. So they come back home and straight to a home game this time against the Green Bay Packers, which the Packers are a pretty good team despite maybe some of the struggles they had last year with with Love's first year as their starting quarterback.
He looked good, though. I mean, he looks like the future in Green Bay, and I like it. You're facing two rookie quarterbacks back-to-back, and then really a second-year quarterback in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Is there any sophomore fall-off? I mean, Jordan Love is not a quote-unquote second-year player, but he's going to be his second year as a starter. Is there any kind of drop-off there? I mean, that's a tough first 7 weeks of the season, and I like the fact that you're getting almost 3.5 rookie quarterbacks right there with Anthony Richardson in week 5. October 6th, he's coming off IR. And then you got Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then year 2 guy, Jordan Love.
Okay. That's fair enough. So you want to go the young quarterback route? You want to tell him who's coming up in week 9?
Yeah, you want to know who's coming up in week 9?
He's not a young quarterback
rowdiest?
Anymore.
Oh, yeah.
He's not young, but he's an Alabama guy as well, right?
Can I get a roll tide? Come on.
Never in a roll tide. So will Mac Jones be on the roster? See his former college teammate and Jalen Hurts there in Philly?
On the Jaguars roster?
Yeah.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
Mac Jones will be the Jaguars' backup quarterback this season. But that week 9 game, the Jaguars' second primetime game of the year, Sunday Night Football, but it's at Philly, so that's not ideal. That is a tough place to play.
Game.
The last time the Jaguars went up to Philly,
Ugly.
It was an ugly game. It was in the rain. It was weather. It was like the remnants of a storm during hurricane season. This one a little bit later in the year in November, so it's probably going to be a bit cold. And that Philly audience is going to be riled up to see Doug Peterson back there again and it not be pouring rain.
And it was a terrible time. You mentioned the rain. That was a 5-turnover game by Trevor Lawrence when they went up there last time.
They jumped out to 14-point lead.
They were up good. Jalen Hurts was struggling a little bit. Trevor Lawrence, though, imploded in that game really kind of early on in year 2 for him, and just not a good performance. But Doug Peterson back in Philly, they love him up there. I wonder if he'll visit that statue.
He says he hasn't seen it yet, but somehow I don't believe that. I do
You
not
got to go there
believe
and get a
it-
selfie or something,
If
Doug.
you
Come
got
on, man.
Was he not there when they unveiled it the first
Come on,
time?
you gotta do
I
it.
feel like if
no,
they,
100%. He had to have been.
I feel like if they unveil a statue of you and you're alive, you're like dedicated.
You
to
got to
be
go,
there.
Doug. Come on.
So
Oh, I would go. If there was a statue of me, oh my God.
Well, you don't have to worry about that. That's not going to happen, so you're safe from that.
there you go. Thank you, Justin. Week 10, the Jaguars are back at home taking on Minnesota. The Vikings are kind of a team in, I guess, turnover because they got rid of Kirk Cousins. So now they've got their new quarterback, another rookie on the schedule, which is favorable when you start facing that many rookies. But even if history says that the Jaguars have actually struggled against some of those rookie quarterbacks, they tend to have those like great career moment days against the Jags.
Yeah, you don't have to look back too far to see that last year. I mean, C.J. Stroud alone really kind of.
Anthony Richardson had a pretty good day.
Yeah.
I mean, so we'll see. That is a home game, so that is at least good against the Minnesota Vikings. All right, everybody was talking about maybe Thanksgiving. Not quite. The week before Thanksgiving, though, they get to go up to Detroit. I don't know if they want to get some turkey while they're up there, but road game November 17th against the Lions. That Lions team was pretty good last year, and even the year before that, they whipped up on the Jaguars, so that's a tough game.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'm really excited for that game, too. Lions have been just on an upward trajectory, and it's indoors.
It is indoors, so that is good.
Indoors.
How
That
about
is
former
good.
News4Jags sports analyst Mark Brunell, still up there in Detroit, coaching Jared Goff, who just got a massive contract extension this week. So I think Trevor Lawrence may be using that Jared Goff framework for his new deal.
The framework?
The framework for that new deal?
Trevor will get paid more than Jared Goff. Trevor will get paid more than Jared Goff.
Yeah, you never know.
Trevor will get. Okay, if we lined up 32 teams and asked them to pick between Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence, who are they picking?
Now, you know my fallback here, Jamal. You know who I'm going to throw out here?
Who?
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk
Who I've
Cousins?
mentioned.
Kirk Cousins he has mentioned Kirk Cousins.
I've
quite a few
mentioned
times.
Kirk Cousins going back to last
and I
year.
hate it every time. I hate
So
it every time.
Jared Goff, a good barometer for that contract. One of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league now.
That is great. Trevor Lawrence will get paid more than Jared Goff. All 32 teams would pick Trevor Lawrence over Jared Goff, and
I
it would
agree.
take they wouldn't let the clock get halfway through.
2 number 1 picks.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to December. Second matchup against the Texans. This one in Jacksonville, December 1st, so that's good. The one thing that you can say about this schedule is that as it gets later in the year, they don't have any like massive cold weather games. The last opportunity for like a cold weather game is this November in Philly. That's always a good sign for a warm weather team like the Jaguars.
Well, yes, that may be good, but look how many divisional matchups they have to end the season. So, yeah, you may not have, you may have good weather, but also you're going to have really tough competition. We've always said it. The easiest way to get into the playoffs is to win the AFC South title.
Yep.
Well, you have 4 games that you cannot lose at all at the end of the season. Remember what happened at the end of the season last year? I won't bring it up, but...
Well, that's valuable too, though, because if they fall behind for some reason, all these playoff teams, at the beginning of the season early, now you can pick up 4 games quickly if you somehow got hot, which we've seen them do the first year Doug Peterson was here. They got hot late,
That's true.
and that's how they were able to get in. Last year was the complete opposite. So maybe this year they'll be somewhere in the middle and maybe stay on the whole time or something. I don't know.
And just you cannot downplay how important these games are. We saw Trevor's rookie year, right? And they beat the Colts to keep the Colts out of the playoffs in week 17 or week 18. Titans last year. Titans 2 years ago at home in the playoff game that ended up leading to the Jags AFC Championship. So, man, week 18 games, huge in that AFC South. I don't have to look back too far for that.
All right, so we've kind of glanced over the 2 Titans and Colts games. So we got 2 more non-divisional games that we can probably touch on. How about the Jets? I know Alessandra's excited for the Jets to be coming to Jacksonville.
No, I just want to. I'm not a Jets fan. Okay. I'm a fan of winners. That's why I'm an Alabama fan. I grew up a Giants fan. Okay, but we were good back then. So I just want to point that out. But I'm so excited for New York to come here. I have a lot of friends going to come for this game, so that's why I'm really excited.
There you go. Aaron Rodgers
gonna be a win.
coming down to Jacksonville. So that game being
In a wheelchair
Jacksonville is good.
or as the quarterback of the Jets?
Justin.
Just say history. History, the old man, the
But
Achilles.
if Aaron Rodgers did come and play here, that would be huge for Jacksonville. And for Jaguars fans, I think they'd more want to see Aaron Rodgers play, but also Jaguars win. But I mean, that would be really cool.
Yeah, great. Aaron Rodgers late in the season in Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah.
Upright, not in an air cast. I think it's got some possibility.
I want to say, and I don't know
Shade.
if my memory is correct on this, but the last time I remember the Jets coming here, and somebody's probably going to fact check me, the last time I remember, I'm pretty sure Sam Darnold was the quarterback, and he had said something about seeing ghosts the week before, and they kept playing Ghostbusters over they kept playing Ghostbusters at the stadium. And I think the Jaguars won that game. I'm pretty sure they did. But that was a good memory of the
Glad
Jets
that
coming
game
here.
is not in New York.
Yes.
The field up in New York. I mean, if you remember a couple years ago, Dwan Smoot, the ACL or the Achilles up there. So I'm glad that game is here, not up there on the carpet up there.
Yeah. And having that game here is big for that reason. So that brings us to another road game. Last non-conference road game or non-divisional road game of the year, Week 16 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Not exactly the week that everybody wanted for the Las Vegas trip. I know there's going to be a lot of Jaguars fans already planning their pilgrimage to Vegas on December 22nd, even if that is not as convenient since it is Christmas week for a lot of people as they hope to go up to Vegas to make that trip. But it's going to be a fun one nonetheless. A lot of Jaguars fans going to be in Vegas for that game. That's going to be the first time that the Jaguars take on that Antonio Pierce coach team, which is in a different kind of spot. Who knows who the quarterback there could be by that time. They kind of got some decisions to make. So that's going to be an interesting game.
Always is. Anytime you play those AFC West teams, it's just, I mean, the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers, it's just so crazy. The Broncos, anything like that.
Quiz question. Who closed out the Oakland Coliseum with a win?
The Jaguars.
That's right. And Derek Carr got siphoned off to the, where?
Siphoned. He got siphoned off.
He got sent off to pasture. Gardner Minshew led them to that win, and they were throwing things on the field. That was an interesting one. So we've pretty much gone through this whole schedule now. All right, so it is difficult. I think we at least vastly agree on that. I don't want to give away win totals right now because we'll do that in another thing for later. But just kind of this first glance at it. Any part stand out to y'all as like the hardest part, or maybe a part that might define their year?
They got to be the jump to me. I mean, you're coming four playoff teams right out of the gate. You got a healthy Anthony Richardson, and then who knows going into London. I mean, I think that's if you can get out good, new defensive coordinator, all those new faces through that kind of schedule, through a Tua, Tyreek Hill, Deshaun Watson, Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud. I mean, that's a brutal stretch to the season. You don't want to be going 0-4 or 1-3 going into the Colts game. I mean, I think that jump out of the gate is tough.
Okay, what you got?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's definitely going to be a hard way to open the season. I think with your first AFC South divisional opponent at the Texans, and also it being Texans, but also it being on the road, I think that's going to be really difficult.
Okay.
But I think the ending with all of the divisional opponents that they have to finish out the season that way, also going all the way across the country to the West Coast. Yeah, it's the West Coast. I lost my train of thought because I forgot the way. Whatever, the West Coast. That's going to be a hard way to end the season as well. So beginning of the season, ending of the season, I think are daunting for the Jaguars. Middle of the season, we should be pretty good.
I would probably say it's those last 6 games. I'll go with you there. Those last 6 games with all the divisional games, that's going to define the AFC South.
Yep.
For not just the Jaguars, but for the Titans or Colts or Texans, because there's so many opportunities. I mean, the Jaguars could make up 4 games in 6 weeks if need be. I mean, if I was going to go some other place with the beginning and ends being difficult, I'd actually go October, November. Just because you're going to start off here and there's a possibility of starting off slow and there's a possibility of ending slow. So that means you got to make the middle count.
Yeah.
So that would probably be my other place because this is kind of sandwiched in between 2 tough stretches. So let's say even if they split both of them, you win 3 there, you win 2 here. If you fumble these knock on wood easy games as we kind of talked on them, then the end isn't as valuable, or that stretch at the beginning kind of made things more difficult. But hey, that's our first look at the kind of the schedule. We'll have another video coming up and over on News4Jags at 11 o'clock as we kind of give you those first schedule predictions way too early before training camp. Thanks for hanging out with us a little bit. Make sure you subscribe to the News4Jags podcast. You can check those out all the time. Leave us a comment. Hit us up on social media. We'll see you next time.